right. That is so bizarre. Scheduling the stream is not working, but launching it directly worked. Thanks though, Sadz guy. Yeah, I tried rescheduling a second time. That stream also wasn't working, but when Sadz guy gave the recommendation of launching the stream directly, give it a shot and it seems to have worked out. So there we go. Wow. 15 minutes of technical difficulties. That was fun. No, not really. But in any case, the stream has begun, so welcome everyone. So after 132 ridiculous battles, I finally managed to get into Langrisser rank, which is brutal because, just for the record, other players I know who hit Langrisser rank, like Kitaru and so on, took around 30. So they took, what, 4 times less battles than I did to get into Langrisser rank, which is pretty telling. I mean, to be fair, I hit like around 1850 points when I had 30 battles in. But it from 1850 to 1900 took me 90 battles or so. So it was kind of ridiculous. I mean, to be fair, a large part of it was because, as I mentioned in an announcement, I kept playing at like 5 AM in the morning, my time. And I just was not really focused at that time period. Like, I don't normally play strategy games that early in the morning. But, you know, whatever. I was playing for fun. At the end of the day, I finally got into it, although it took me way too long. So what's really sad is, if I just bring up the battle reports quickly, for example, if we look at the times on these, you can see I played in the morning here just now, a whole bunch of matches. Lost, sorry, I won one, then I lost, then I win, then I lose. So, you know, for example, if you win 2 and lose 6, you're definitely dropping points like crazy. Right? And I dropped to 1800 at that point. The irony is then after that, I finally decided to change my box. So I finally made my very first box adjustment for this season. And as soon as I adjusted my box, I ended up winning, I think, 6 in a row. So 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins, 6 wins. And with 6 wins in a row, that earned me 1100 points. Sadz guy, I have a question for you. If you're at 1900 points, are you protected like in Gold 3? No, you're not protected. Ay, another problem? Okay, let me see what I can do there. So we're having some issues with the chat not showing up. Let me see if I can make some adjustments. There we go. So that fixed the chat box as well. Okay, thanks, Eidolon82. Yeah. Okay, so if you're at 1800, or sorry, if you're at 1900 and you lose matches, you actually drop back to 18 whatever. So you're not rank protected in Langrisser. However, you are reward protected. Okay, the rewards are based on the highest tier you've ever reached. So if I drop back down to Gold 1 at this point, I still get Langrisser ranked rewards. There's a bunch of players who actually dropped. I know, for example, Newbie dropped a whole bunch. Newbie has already hit Langrisser rank. He has the Langrisser rank frame on his account, but he's at like around 1800 points right now. So if you drop, it doesn't really matter except for getting into the playoffs. Okay, but you can drop. The only rank protection that remains is at all the way at Gold 3. Alright. So, alright, that was a kind of a long overview and a long kind of chatter. Let's just get started with going over some matches now. So, last week, I think I cut off with the Noemi demonstration, something like that. And there were a few other matches below that that I want to show. So I'm just scrolling down to see. I think that the only one was just this one here, Wiler and Zerida. So let's start with that. So most of these matches I'm showing initially still don't have me with the adjusted box. I'll go over the adjusted box afterwards, but this is still my current box, which has Liana, Gizaroff, Ares, Yusuke, Iris, Juggler, Reen, Arianrod, Deedlit, Landius, Listel, Wiler, Bozo, Licorice, Zerida. Okay. For those who are curious who I adjusted, I removed my Yusuke and I replaced Iris with Sophia. More on why I did that when those matches come up, but it was very, very successful, those two adjustments. So for this particular fight, my opponent actually has Yulia in the box, as well as Claret. Yulia and TA, right? I mean, actually, there's also a Bo, Luna, and Angelina. You can say almost all of these characters are still meta. Tiaris is probably the only character that is not meta, but a lot of people still run Tiaris if they don't have Wiler built to 6 stars. So you can't say Tiaris is exactly a bad character. It's a very, I guess, princess-oriented box with Hiei mixed in as the assassin, along with Zerida. I think it's not up to par as a meta box compared to a lot of the the recent developments, but it's still workable, certainly usable, right? I wouldn't encounter Sadz if he wasn't at around 1600 to 1700 or so. So I begin the banning with an Ares. At this point, he bans my Jugglers, very standard, picks the Juggler, which is also very standard, what I've been experiencing a lot when I was not banning Juggler. So I ban Claret next, along with Reen, right? Getting rid of the 2 high mobility attackers as well as Reen. And I play my Landius. So I lose Reen and Listel, very, very standard once again, the characters that I lose. He left me Ares though. And he plays Zerida to start, so Assassination, and Faction Buff for Juggler. So let's get rid of Hiei and Wiler right away. Oh, I somehow missed that he had Wiler. So he has both Wiler and Tiaris as his healers. Okay, moving on. Okay. And I get to play my Ares. So one of the few times that I get to play Ares. And now I lose Arianrod and Zerida. He plays Tiaris. Attack Blessing, I suppose. So, Gizaroff and Angelina ban. And I start with Bozo. So, I now lose Yusuke and Licorice, right, after playing Bozo. And he plays Luna, right? So, I got rid of 1 mobility buff, the alternate of Angelina. And he just got to play Luna anyways for the mobility buff Wind God Realm to Zerida. Right. Well, let's get rid of Bozo and Landius now. Right, faction buff for Zerida and the secondary tank. And I play Wiler. So I still had the choice of Gizaroff, Deedlit, Iris, Liana, so it's not like I had to play Wiler yet, but I felt it was a very good choice at this point. Okay. So he gets rid of my last 2 damage dealers, Gizaroff and Deedlit, forcing me to pick another healer, of course. So he plays Yulia as the last character, and I have to choose between Iris and Liana. And I decide to pick Liana, of course, right? Act Again at least can offer me another damage hit, potentially. Iris would just teleport the character forward to attack, which isn't as useful to me in this kind of situation. So at least I can kind of have Bozo attack twice, for example, in this scenario. Alright. So, I didn't make any real adjustments to my characters here. Like, for example, what I really should have adjusted is probably switched Wiler to Catapult. This is definitely a battle where I would actually have Wiler attack the enemy, right? And there's no real need to dispel debuffs, so that was definitely a small mistake. No. Liana continued to run Act Again, Gospel, and Heal. Also a kind of questionable action, because Gospel is not exactly required against this box either. So there were 2, I didn't really adjust anything for this fight. Ares went for a single target Ares, so Fearless Hurricane, Resurgent Gale, and Noble Charge. The whole goal is if I remove the Triton in water buff, I can kill off Juggler kind of scenario. His Zerida is pretty much expected, Backstab, Shadow Raid, Obliterate. Tiaris doesn't bring Miracle, bringing Mass Heal, right? As the sole healer, that makes a lot of sense. Yulia has Godly Menace, Faith, and Discipline, which actually makes less sense than usual, because most often Yulia facing off Yulia, I feel, should very often run her other attack skill, right? The Dispel 5 buffs one. So it's a bit of a surprise that he didn't choose to bring that. Regardless, it's not a terrible choice either, right? Especially against Landius, but it's an interesting choice. And Luna is just faction buffing up both Yulia and Tierras. So all his characters are faction buffed, unlike mine. The really odd choice is that he brought a Catapult Zerida. You know, I've kind of seen them appear, but yeah, I don't understand it. Like, I've seen people use them, I just really don't understand it. Zerida's not really about having the 3 range attack, at least in my opinion. And you can only assassinate with 2 range anyways, using Shadow Raid. So I've never quite understood the whole Catapult Zerida thing. Maybe someone else has a better idea. But yeah. Finally though, I did configure Bozo, bringing Faction Buff, Sleep, and Dark Reaper. So my whole idea with Bozo is he can double attack and kill off Juggler, right? The whole idea is he can Faction Buff, he can single target strike, he can get Act again, and then a second single target strike to finish off Juggler. So that would wipe out his tank, hopefully. So, here we go. I begin by moving Ares in aggressively because I know I can kind of limit the locations that this Zerida can go, first of all. And second, by pushing in aggressively like this, I can... it just gives me opportunity to choose the target I want to attack. I am placed in range of the enemy Zerida at this point though. So, I just rapidly use the act again here. Right? And the reason for that is I thought that I could be able to quickly assassinate a target of my choice. Right? He had 3 characters outside of the Juggler guard range. Right? Just going back, right? He moved Juggler up, far up, then moved Zerida up. So with that, he gave me the opportunity to pick someone to quickly assassinate right from the start. Well, or to attack right from the start, I should say, not assassinate. But, so, Luna activates the faction buff and all that good stuff. So now, right away, I'm sending Ares in. And the target of choice for me was Yulia. She revives, but Fearless Hurricane finishes her off just like that. And I move Ares back. So I actually made a slight mistake here. What I was expecting was I could actually have Wiler, after this attack, tactical retreat my Ares back. Okay. So the problem was my character positioning screwed that all up. Okay. If I had Wiler not positioned in the back line but closer, I would have been able to tactical retreat this Ares. If I had characters move, if I had swapped Bozo and Landius' positions, then Bozo could have moved far enough that my tactical retreat targeting on Bozo would have pulled Ares back to me. With this positioning, I actually could not tactical retreat my Ares back. So that was a mistaken positioning. Let me just go back quickly to the beginning. So my character positioning here messed up the tactical retreat portion. That is it. If I had rotated Bozo and Landius, would have worked. If I had moved Wiler just 1 tile up even, he would have been able to tactical retreat. It was just, with this setup, tactical retreat was, there was not enough range to target because it only has 6 range, and I couldn't target an ally to pull Wiler, to pull Ares to me because it only has a 4 block radius. So, little mistake, or big mistake I should say, that I made there. Should have been able to save my Ares and just make it a 5v4 for an easy win right away. But yeah, careless positioning. Just an interesting point I thought I would mention. If leaving Wiler in the back line is not always the smartest choice. And also having your Bozo in the front line can make a big difference too. You know, especially on this map. If I, like I said, if I had simply swapped Bozo and Landius' positions, which makes a lot of sense by the way, would have been able to pull Ares to safety. Well, So I can't pull Ares to safety. It ends up being a trade of my Ares for the enemy Yulia, which ultimately isn't too bad. I'm willing to accept such a trade. So Ares easily falls to Luna. 4v4, simplifying the battlefield significantly, at least for me. So, in this situation, since I don't need the Gospel effect on Landius, since he has no debuffers or anything like that, I instead choose to Gospel Leanna herself. So that way she kind of has a faction buff. At least she has more intelligence than her base int. Right? So rather than 904 int, the Gospel buff raises it to 1059. Which works. So right now, the interesting thing I should also mention is all my characters are magic attackers. Right? He does have Luna for the magic damage reduction of 30%, but other than Landius, everyone else is a magic striker. So now, at this point, I activate my high stakes. And just continue to push forward aggressively. Juggler now jumps in with Sacred Beast him. Master of Ice. Like, by forcing myself in aggressively forward like this, I basically forced him to use his Sacred Beast him. Right? He has no choice but to Sacred Beast him. Otherwise, what? He's gonna let me attack him twice? So, by charging in forward like this, Juggler has no choice but to use Sacred Beast him. It's basically wasted. And especially since I can tactical retreat back like this. So now I'm just pretty much waiting for it to expire. Right? Just need 2 turns for it to expire. Or I can do this. Put the Juggler that has used Sacred Beast him to sleep. So, Juggler is put to sleep, it loses a bunch of buffs. Taking a look here, for example, it's still considered in water, so it managed to keep that. But it lost, for example, and it still guards magic strikes. But I think it did lose the 1 point. Oh no, I don't even know what. Oh, it lost the faction buff effects. So I didn't strip any good buffs. Right? I was hoping the sleep, the Dispel 3 would get rid of some good ones. Didn't really. But at the very least, he's put to sleep. He can't guard anyone for the next turn. So Luna attacks. I lose a bunch of health on Bozol. Leanna moves up, heals up my Wiler. And I continue to charge forward with Landius. Right. The whole point right now is I'm basically reducing the ability of Zerida to be able to get her mobility buffs. Right. She still has 7 mobility right now, but by charging in aggressively like this, I'm completely limiting what Zerida can do. So now, in the meantime, I get to kill Luna. Since he chose to attack Blessing Zerida. So Zerida tries to jump in at 3 range with attack Blessing, right? But Bozol lives against that. Right? This is 100% relying on Desperate Prayer with the 15% damage reduction taken, and Bozol, yeah, totally takes that. Now the interesting question is, because of the zoning, he couldn't get into 2 range to attack my Bozol, right? So by pushing in aggressively like this with Landius, I basically prevented this Zerida from being able to do a 2 range strike on my Bozol. The 2 range strike, assuming he didn't have catapults, but a 2 range strike with Shadow Ray probably could have killed my Bozol from full hit points, but the 3 range catapult strike definitely couldn't, as we just saw. Right? Not against a full hit point Bozol with 15% damage reduction. So there we go. So, this aggressive movement works. And so I just regroup him to full health and start striking this Juggler. Hindsight, what I should have done was had Bozol attack first, regroup, then attack a second time. just a more optimized use, right? Because but I think what I was thinking was, if I did that, yeah, I actually don't know why I didn't do that. I really don't. Right? Oh, wait. I think let me take that back. If I had done that, Desperate Prayer would have healed me anyways. So in that case, the regroup would not have kicked in. Right? If I attack, Desperate Prayer, providing the 5x heal, would have made Bozal would have raised up the sorceress's health, and so regroup would not have allowed him to act again anyways. So I think what I thought was, I just want to make sure Bozal would be at full hit points for his attack, given that he lost all his soldiers and he himself took damage. I really just wasn't sure how much Desperate Prayer heals. So I regrouped first, made sure he was at full health, had him do his first strike. Right, to chop down a lot of the health on Juggler. And then Liana has act again anyways. So Liana act again, second attack with Dark Reaper, Juggler falls. Right, so 2 attacks, takes down Juggler very easily. And now it's 4 against 2. Battle's over. It took me a little bit longer because, for example, I didn't really want my Bozal to die, stuff like that. Oddly enough, he continues to do 3 range attacks on my characters. I don't get it. He has not used Shadow Raid yet, but he continues to rely on these 3 range attacks for whatever reason. Actually, the other surprise is that he continues to fight, right? Because, well, Dark Reaper would not kill. First of all, I know for a fact that Bozal with Dark Reaper would not one-shot Juggler. So I'd rather just make sure for the second hit that I 100% take him down. Second of all, Dark Reaper heals after combat, not before. So I wanted to, I want to make sure I'm at full health for my attack, where the sorceresses get their 45% attack increase and so on. So it was just to 100% make sure that Juggler dies. But you're right, I could have used it first too. Oh. But yeah, I mean, this is just going to play it out. Since I have such a huge number advantage, I sacrificed my Wiler to reactivate my high stakes buff, so that everyone is at full health. And here I just put his Zerida to sleep, or try to, but what I didn't realize is, funny enough, I thought I would be able to put her to sleep and just kill her this way, right? But his Tiaris has Sage's Hat. So Sage's Hat provides immunity to stun and speed decreases. Right? What I should have done really was probably put Tiaris to sleep, because next turn Tiaris would be asleep, the poison moves up 1, and Tiaris dies. So wrong character to put to sleep. Zerida ignores it. And so Zerida attacks at 2 range this time with Shadow Raid, but she's damaged. And so, yeah, once again, Bozal doesn't die. And so I get to kill off the damaged Zerida, right? And battle is over. Finally. Took a while for him to actually retreat, right? But, yeah, nice and easy. So, it was kind of interesting in the sense that, for example, I wanted to mention that thing about Ares being able to be tactical retreated, right? I definitely made a mistake there, but trading my Ares to get rid of the Yulia definitely simplified the battle for me to easily wipe him out. And I actually feel that battle kind of shows the weaknesses of Tiaris' healing line. The fact that there's a big difference between Wiler, who heals before combat begins, and Tiaris, who heals after combat. So, one big difference there. Oh, Bakuya. That sucks, man. Yeah, I was cut, but I was stuck in the exact same situation for 3 weeks. So hopefully you have a better week next week. Yeah, I really did. Well, to be fair, the battle was over, so even if I made mistakes at that point, it would not affect the end result. But that was a battle where I made a lot of mistakes. Much more than I expected to have made. Frankly. Given the time. It was an afternoon match, not a morning match. The morning matches I keep talking about how I lose, right? Take a look at this. 1 loss, 2 losses, 3 losses, 4 losses, 5 losses, 6 losses. So, I just don't play well in the mornings, but I keep playing anyways. Next. This is a match where I used, I guess, ddrd and Licorice. Let's take a look. I'm not even sure. This one was... So this was not another match that was last week. I have no real recollection of this one. Actually, Bakura, it's funny you mentioned that because I've been using a level 20 Tenyo's headdress on my ddrd. And I didn't realize. So I'm like, oh yeah, I have a Tenyo's headdress on ddrd. Wait, why is it level 20? Oops. Alright. I'll go over that when I reach the battles, Kuma. Okay. So, continuing on, this battle, still the same party, right? Last week I was still continuing to run this party, so it hasn't changed yet. It won't change until the battles for this week. And my opponent, Eidolon, is running Oliver. So, Oliver, Tiaris, presumably for attack blessing, Knight of Mysteries. There's a Rene here, so there's a whole bunch of AoE attackers too. Bozol, Rene, Knight of Mysteries, who can kind of AoE and kind of single target. Gizera, AoE primarily. Rachel is kind of a mix of both, single target and AoE. Listel is primarily AoE. Arianrod is primarily AoE. So this is also another party that is predominantly AoE, but there is Tiaris and Oliver mixed in. I don't know. A lot of people are running this kind of mixed hybrid party, including me, because I don't know. I don't feel it particularly works all that well. At least that's been my personal experience. But at the same time, not everyone has been able to... How do you say it? Not everyone has been able to have all AoE characters in their party, right? So that's why people run kind of hybrids. Because we're still busy building up characters. Yes. Yes, he is RNG. And so I think that's why I decided to show this match, but he is RNG reliant, and in Apex you don't want an RNG reliant character like that. A bit too heavy. There's other assassins who can do what he can do better, like Hiei and Zerida. So yeah. Alright, so I've now transitioned to the juggler ban here at this point. So both sides ban juggler. He plays Landius. I get rid of the Listel and Arianrod. The other problem with his box is, frankly, he doesn't have Ares, he doesn't have Reen. There's not too many threats to me, right? Generally speaking, the big three that you ban have been Ares, Reen, and Listel. And then you're stuck facing, let's say, Claret or a fourth deadly opponent. He doesn't actually have that, so I was very rapidly able to ban all the characters that I might even be afraid of. So, Langrisser on my side. Ares Liana. He plays Rachel of all things. Dispel, I suppose. So I get rid of Bozol and Rene. And I play my Zerida to start. He gets rid of my Wiler and Iris. So I was not paying attention, and I lost all 3 healers. So Liana was banned initially, right? He banned Ares and Liana. And then now he got to ban my Wiler and my Iris. So lost all 3 healers. He now plays Knight of Mysteries. So he's playing Yealess Legends box, I suppose. Well, that's fine. I now get rid of his Zerida and Oliver. So both his assassins are eliminated. And I choose to play Licorice at this point. So he gets rid of Gizerov and Arianrod now. Bit of a surprise there, right? He left a big ddrd in this right here. So, alright, fine. He plays Gizerov, so he's still going for AoEs, clearly. So I get rid of his 2 healers, Tiaris and Iris, leaving him Liana. I play my Deedlit, so I end up having double healer anyways. Yeah, no. Big mistake on this on the second pick, but he made a big mistake on the 4th ban, allowing me to play double healer anyways, with Deedlit and Licorice. So I do lose Reen and Listel. Well, I had no opportunity to pick them since I was desperately trying to pick healers. He plays Liana, of course, and I have a choice between Bozol and Yusuke. I have Zerida and Licorice. Guess who I'm going to pick, right? Bozol, obviously. Yeah. It's a nice Maya skin for those who use Maya, for sure. They seem to be adding a lot of Mahou Shoujos though, right? Emilia got one, young Jessica got one, now Maya is getting one. So, this was definitely a game where I could have lost it in the pick ban. He let me recover in the pick ban. He definitely made a big mistake there. With his party, there's 2 characters I can 100% assassinate. Knight of Mysteries and Rachel. Right? Liana, depends on what kind of accessory she has. Gizarov, I should be able to assassinate as well, but not a big priority compared to the other 2. And Landius is Landius. So, managed to get 3 Dark Heroes in. So Bozol is my faction buffer, once again bringing Sleep and Dark Reaper. Probably should have brought Earthquake. The Dark Reaper was kind of questionable. Licorice is bringing Dark Despair, Mass Heal, and Demonic Advance, so she's kind of like my healer. Deedlit has extra healing, so Sea of Miracles, as well as Elven Aura and the Gospel, and Landius is just as is. So I think just doesn't understand that Licorice and Deedlit can act as very effective healers. And most people don't, because not everyone has this kind of box. Like mine. Oh, one other thing. I'm running Templar Knights on Landius for this particular fight, because all his characters are magic attack except for Landius. So it makes no sense to run Royal Cavalry, right? The Templar Knights, with their ability to provide increased magic defense value, really helps. Right? So their stats is, when battling against demons, they get extra attack and defense, 45% increase on both. But otherwise, in all situations, they have a magic defense increase to 45%. So you can see these Templar Knights have 731 magic defense. Right? Compare that to, let's say, Royal Cavalry that has 324. That's a huge difference. So I'm not very afraid of any of his single target strikes. Not even the Dark Reaper of Rachel. The only thing I have to be afraid of is actually the Knight of Mysteries debuff, right? Because Knight of Mysteries can apply a debuff with Broken Spear, and that can't be dispelled. So, making sure to avoid that, I'm using Deedlit as a Gospel character. So I moved my Deedlit into range to trigger the act again. So Gospel on Landius, trigger act again, and just move back. So my Deedlit is purely a Gospel bot and healer in this fight. Zerida is my main damage dealer. So, Eidolon starts off with Thunder Zone, doing some AoE damage to me. Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, 1,751 attack. I'm not too surprised. If I just go back a step, even my attack is 1,505. Right? There's different ways to build Landius. And you can see his Landius has very, very low hit points. It's only 12k hit points on this Landius. Compare that to mine. 16,000 hit points. So he went for seriously crazy amounts of attack at the cost of hit points. Right? This is probably a full moon enchanted Landius. Doesn't even have the skill increase, so that's not an Overlord's badge. It's not an Overlord's badge. It's not a Swordsmith medal either. So it's a maximum attack Landius with very high defense and magic defense, but low hit points. yeah, it happens. I'm not too surprised about that one. I would not build my Langrisser this way, but you can. AoE, Mass Heal, just restores my health. And I don't think I Demonic Evented. Oh no, I did Demonic Event. Huh. Not sure why I used Demonic Event, but okay, that's fine. Oh, I know why. I used Demonic Event to hope that I get +3 mobility on Zerida. Right? I was hoping for a mobility buff, so Demonic Event can allow Tenyo's Headdress to kick in twice on Zerida. Didn't get it though. So no mobility buff. I pretty much just have to hover where I am. Right? Zerida with her Bloodthirster form at least is keeping the enemy back. He can't afford to move anywhere when my Zerida is providing that huge zone of control, right? Preventing the enemy, if the enemy moves up at all, Zerida will assassinate them. So he's just staying outside of my Zerida's range at this point. Dropping summons though, I'm not sure. Oh, he brought the Sky Archer clearly to try to dispel anything I would do with Bozal, but I didn't even run an AoE on Bozal anyways. So he is shifting positions after seeing me shift north. Right, with my Zerida. So seeing that my Zerida is in the north, he shifted his Knight of Mystery south. Right, because otherwise I'd be able to attack it. He has to move right away. So that clears up more space for me to have Zerida activate Bloodthirster further forward, once again. So, last game I aggressively zoned Zerida. This game I'm aggressively zoning with my Zerida. So in the meantime, Gospel bot Deedlit is moving into range, triggering Gospel, moving back. As long as she does that, she can permanently maintain that Gospel effect. Just so you guys... As long as you keep moving into range to trigger the act again, she can permanently cast Gospel. So something that's well worth mentioning. Right? You just have to make sure that every single turn you trigger the act again effect, every other turn. And then she can be a permanent Gospel bot for your tank. It's kind of awkward, but it works. So, he moved Void on me. The Runic Void, okay, Zerida in Bloodthirster form can't receive any debuffs. So Zerida just took damage, no damage debuffs. So really the only character that got debuffed by Rachel was my Deedlit, who has 5 of them. Not sure if he knows about that Zerida immunity. Anyways, so I didn't really care. Langrisser is still guarding everyone. He has no real AoE attacks, none that can reach me anyways. So, battle continues. And I get the opportunity here to have my Bozal jump in and put Rachel to sleep. Oh, I was wrong. Deedlit actually ended up in, or Licorice actually ended up in range of that. Okay. So I was not viewing it right. He ended up, his Rachel ended up hitting both my Licorice as well as my Deedlit with it. Okay, this kind of makes sense. But now Rachel is put to sleep in a place where I can easily assassinate her. Okay. Or I can have Zerida pretty much assassinate anyone I want at this point because I got a +3 mobility buff from my Deedlit. Deedlit has a Tenyo's Headdress, as I mentioned, so that extra mobility now gives me the opportunity to assassinate anyone I so wish. All these little things. Tenyo's Headdresses, though, are so critical. So, Langrisser attacks Bozal. Bozal is super tanky with the soldiers having lots of hit points, so he never actually dies to one shot. Right? He gives his soldiers a lot of hit points, unlike a lot of damage dealers. So he just shrugs it off. I get to retreat him back. Nice protect activation. Okay. So now, Licorice, Dark Despair time. AoE, right? Healing, mass debuffing, and the nice thing here is I also got to apply a mobility reduction on this construct. Originally, this construct should have been able to move up 3, right? Get ultimate construct activation. So it moves up to here. Ultimate construct to damage characters within 3 blocks, which would be ddrd, and then move to attack someone. I definitely had to use this Dark Despair at this point because I needed to heal up Bozal a bunch and heal up and just do damage to the enemy. But it had an additional bonus, if you will, of making this construct unable to affect me. So nice little addition there. Right? Made this construct useless too. But I'll assassinate Rachel first. I could choose. I had a full selection. Could have taken down Leanna, could have taken down Rachel, could have taken down Knight of Mysteries. I didn't really matter. I just chose Rachel first because Rachel has the Dark Despair and can provide healing to characters. So let's get rid of that, damage dealer who can also heal. In the meantime, let's just keep retreating. Right? Landius continues to guard everyone. Right? I'm just relying on Zerida for this fight to kill things. So first enemy assassinated successfully. In the meantime, he continues to try to heal. I'll have my Bozal wrap around and take out that construct for now. Zerida remains very deadly against any kind of AoE assault against any kind of mage heavy team, because most mages cannot prevent Zerida assassinations. There are heroes who can, like Lestel, like ddrd, right? Those characters cannot be assassinated, but mages are easy. So he's continuing to try to launch out AoEs, right? As I mentioned, I'm sure his battle plan was to AoE me to death. He just didn't understand that Licorice and ddrd provide a lot of healing against AoEs. So ddrd continues to mass heal, keeping my characters healthy, despite all those AoEs. And ddrd continues to buff up my Landius with Gospel, moving back. This time around, I wrap around to do Sea of Miracles. So now everyone is back to full health. After a mass heal in Sea of Miracles, his AoEs have all been eliminated, and Rachel's dead. Sky Archer moves up, so I might as well have Landius kill it. I'm certain he was trying to block the path there, right? What he was trying to do was prevent my Zerida from reaching Leanna, right? By blocking the road. Let me just go back quickly, right? If I go back here, select Zerida, at this point I can't assassinate Leanna, right? So trying to block the path, but with an easy and quick Landius kill, Zerida now can reach Leanna once again. But I don't feel like it's worth killing Leanna, right? She's not a threat. The real threats are the Knight of Mysteries and Gizaroth. So I just maneuver forward and reactivate Bloodthirster instead. So I was able to reactivate Bloodthirster because of Sea of Miracles. Side note, right? Sea of Miracles reduces the cooldown of skills by 1. So I did not have to charge in at this time. Instead, I got the opportunity to reactivate my Bloodthirster because the map is shrinking. Right? There's no way for him to avoid my Zerida pretty much at this point with the next turn. Yep. Why suicide my Zerida when I don't have to? He does manage to summon the construct though, that's guarded. So I'm just maneuvering in a way to protect myself against it. So characters get kind of split up to avoid the AoE. Right? The construct destruction AoE has 3 range, just 3 blocks. So by maneuvering like this, the only characters who can really get hits right now is Bozal. Bozal or Landius with Zerida. Zerida's immune. If Bozal gets hit, I don't really care. He goes after the Landius and Zerida combo with the ultimate construct. Right? They're both, side note, they're both gospeled. Right? Landius has gospel, immunity to all debuffs. Zerida has Bloodthirster, so the construct does nothing. Right? No debuffs at all. just a bit of damage. Construct strikes my full hit point Licorice, whatever, right? Not gonna kill her. So let's have Zerida assassinate the damage dealer. Surprisingly, Knight of Mystery lives. That really surprised me. I didn't expect her to, but the forest gave her just enough hit points to tank that. So she was down to 1,192 hit points. She does have 943 defense, so the forest's additional 20% defense made her tanky enough to survive my Zerida. Dope. What a waste. Still, Zerida remains guarded by Landius, so it's all good. Right? I don't have to suicide my Zerida, and I have the opportunity to kill. So, in the meantime, Landius takes a bunch of damage, gets a mass heal, loses his first life to the enemy Knight of Mysteries. So, time to have ddrd charge in, and Elvinora. Actually fails to kill this Landius. That was a surprise to me. Right? Keep in mind that this is a ddrd that has 1,610 hit points. I'm attacking a damaged Landius as well with Elven Aura. And in Mage class. So all of these things made me think that I would be 100% able to kill this Landius. But surprisingly, I don't. Let's turn on the animation for this fight. I am really shocked here that I didn't kill him. Yeah, I'm just not sure what happened there. I really don't know. As I said, this was a max int, well, not max int, but high int ddrd with 1.6 times damage in Mage class, attacking a Landius that had mostly dead Royal Cavalry, and I didn't kill it. Maybe, I mean, I had way more unicorns alive than he had Royal Cavalry, so I just was not sure what was going on here. Unless ddrd's attack landed before all the unicorn strikes, which is possible because it's a Mage class. So Mage ddrd wasted strikes killing the Royal Cavalry, and she didn't have enough strikes to kill the full hit point Landius. I think that's the most likely conclusion. So if I had run wizards, this was a sure kill. But because I ran unicorns, it was not. Pretty sure that's the case. Because, you know, this is a melee class soldier with a ranged class hero. There was 20% increase here. Right? I have Gospel on her. City Wall just increases defense. It doesn't increase magic defense. Right? It's a defense increase, not a magic defense increase. So I'm truly not sure why ddrd failed to kill there. I think unless this is something new to me, unless it increases magic defense as well, I don't think it does. Well, in any case, Landius lives. Long story short. Right. It survives with 1,200 hit points, but it lived. Right. So, whatever. Let's have Bozo charge in with Dark Reaper. Right. I was really expecting Bozo, as I said, I was really expecting Bozo to be dead here. Right. The first attack from ddrd, the second attack from Bozo. Hindsight, probably should have had Bozo attack first then. Right. Bozo would have 100% killed with Dark Reaper. And then I should have done a follow-up strike with ddrd. Right. So either way, it was 2 strikes in a row. Yeah, if I had Bozo attack first, that would have killed Landius. Then ddrd could have followed up for a second strike to kill. But oh well. Regardless, she's still alive. But Bozo fortunately did silence the enemy Liana, just for an added bonus. So the battle lines are pretty mixed up right now, you can see. Right? My Zerida is actually pretty much blocked from getting to safety. But his Landius is very weak. He starts by having Liana attack my Templar Knights. And the Templar Knights totally shrug it off. Right? So if I was running Royal Cavalry, Actually, even if I was running Royal Cavalry, Liana would not have killed me. I'm not sure what he was aiming for there. Right. I have 721 magic defense. Liana has 844 int. It would not have killed off that 3000 hit points. If he really wanted to kill, he would have had to use Knight of Mysteries to attack. Or Gizaroff. So, big miscalculation on his part. Liana doesn't die. Or, no, Liana doesn't kill Landius. But, oh, side note. Actually, he did that to get Liana into safety. Right? If he did not move Liana, I could have blocked this tile. So Liana would have died. So in order to keep his Liana alive, he had no choice but to move her up. Right? It was the only move he could make, given that Liana got silenced by Bozo's hat, the Soul Stealer headdress. So forced move on his part. Right? The silence, keeping him from healing his Landius, giving me a bit of an advantage here. Right? Although he still heals via talent. So for now, what I do is I move Landius in to try to block. Right? And I also get healing from Dietlitz's Elvinora. So I heal up a significant portion of health. Landius attack. So Landius against Landius. Neither one dies. Both are nearly dead. I'm at 4%, he's at 7%. Let's turn off the animations at this point. The battle's pretty much going to end. So, Licorice, Demonic Advance. Licorice, reactivation of Dark Despair. Healing to my characters. Damage to the enemy. Landius gets raised up pretty high. Enough to survive again anyways. But yeah, his Landius should have been dead. But it wasn't. Ultimate Construct suicides into my Landius. He gives up. Right? Yeah, I think it was the Unicorn wasting ticks and Dietlit not having enough stretch to take down a full hit point Landius. As I said, most likely if I had Bozal attack first, would have had the guarantee win. Right? Just a bad attack order was what nearly cost me the match there. Nearly, but not quite. Yeah. So it was an interesting match nonetheless. You know? It was much closer than I would have expected out of his box. And in large part, you know, I made mistakes with my pick ban, especially losing all three healers without being able to pick one of them. But Licorice and Dietlit were able to provide enough healing to keep me in the fights and eventually win the match. I also probably should have assassinated Liana, right? I'm not sure why I didn't. Oh, I just, maybe at this point, my Liana did not have her Twilight Star yet. But that was a very easy to assassinate Liana. Just, I don't know why I didn't do it. Because his Liana was Mage class, and as long as Liana is in Mage class with Holy Soldiers, Twilight Star has that if the enemy is formed of mixed units, they will not be invulnerable to this damage at this time. Meaning, Zerida will always break Liana's Shrine Maidens. So, I can only assume that I did not have Twilight Star on my Zerida for this battle. That's about all I can say. I am... Again, as I said, I'm pretty sure it was just the Unicorn strikes were all wasted. It doesn't even matter if the Unicorns do damage if they're all thrown at the Cavalry, when Dietlit also is attacking the Cavalry. Anyways. Yeah, but the training ground techs are pretty advanced for my Cavalry training ground. I mean, the only one that I'm lacking really is this, the Rapid Route. And even the Fine Steel Hooves at 8 out of 10. So, I don't know. Everything else is maxed out in terms of damage output. Mostly. But yeah. Regardless, a win is a win. It was just a bit more awkward than it should have been. a few lessons I could learn from that fight, for sure. Alright, so that was the second match. ddrd and Licorice as healers. The third one was an interesting one where we had Listel against Listel. You know, I mentioned how there's basically 3 characters you have to ban at the start of every fight, right? Ares, Reen, and then Juggler. So those 3 are pretty much guaranteed bans. So as a result, it's allowing people to play characters like Listel. So this is one where we both pick Listel, I'm guessing. So yeah, Juggler ban on both sides, right? Landius pick. I lose Ares and Reen, as expected. He picks Landius as well. He loses Ares and Reen. So mirror matchup so far. I pick Listel. He bans my Arianrod and Leanna now. So healer and Arianrod, forcing me to pick a healer. He plays Listel as well, of course. So he loses Leanna and ddrd. I get rid of 2 healers. And I pick Wiler. He gets rid of my Zerida and Licorice. So things are now kind of branching off. It was mirror at the start, but now we're kind of doing different picks, different bans. Right? Among other things, he has Sophia, I don't. I have Yusuke, he doesn't. He has Rainforce, I don't. So there are some differences in our boxes. Not too many though. Both are still very meta boxes. He picks Iris as his healer. Interesting choice. So I get rid of Bozal and Licorice. Playing my Bozal. He gets rid of my Yusuke and Gizaroff now, leaving me the choice between ddrd and Iris. So getting rid of my combo of, you know, my potentially, you know, having someone faction buff up the other characters. He plays Rainforce, interestingly enough. So I get rid of Gizaroff and Sophia, leaving him the choice of Zerida or Arianrod. So I've been able to mostly prevent him from getting a faction buff, right? Zerida would have to faction buff herself, Arianrod would not have a faction buff, and Rainforce does get buffed by Landius though. So that's probably why he picked Rainforce. So I end up picking ddrd. You know, Iris just is not a good choice in this kind of situation. And he ends up picking Arianrod. So decides not to go for the assassin. Goes for Arianrod instead. Makes sense actually. It's actually a bit of an odd movement, this one, because on one hand, if he picks Zerida, he does have Iris to teleport Zerida forward. On the other side, of course, Zerida can only assassinate Bozal. Right? That's the only character Zerida could possibly assassinate. So, and actually, he's also running a Demon Zerida, which is another surprise. Yeah. Okay. So, I should have made some adjustments to Wiler for this fight. Let's take a look if I did. Didn't. High stakes regroup tactical retreat. I did not bring Dispel. Huh. Okay. So, Dispel has all 3 attack skills. Blood Dance, Mindboard, Reaper's Touch here. Bozal is bringing faction buff, Sleep, and Dark Reaper. I'm still expecting to have him use single target strikes, because that's really the only way I could kill Landius, right? With single targets. AoEs will not be all that useful against his box. Right? I was looking at it, just didn't think AoEs would work. So I decided to bring a single target Bozal instead. ddrd, as just like the previous site, Elven Aura, Sea of Miracles, Gospel. Still bringing unicorns. The unicorn choice was a mistake for this map. It should have been wizards. Okay. Alright, so beginning battle, I self-buff my ddrd with Gospel instead of buffing Landius. So he actually has more AoEs than I do, as a side note. He has 3. Right? Listel, Rainforce, and Arianrod. So I'm positioning right now in a way to try to avoid the Lunar Flare, because if Lunar Flare hits 3 characters, it has no cooldown. Right? So I kind of put it with 2x2, allowing him to hit 2 characters but not 3. And he's not using it. So now I did move back and offer 3 characters for him to attack. Bit of a mistake there, I think, moving back like this. Because now he can move like here and launch out an attack to hit all of these guys. But first, he's setting up, so he moved his Landius up so that Rainforce can attack with the AoE and hit 3. So given that's the case, I just begin my faction buff. I still have to protect everyone after all. And he still doesn't have Rainforce jump in. So I start things off. Toss out the Mind Bore on 3 of these guys. He teleports Listel forward. So I just begin maneuvering backwards. So there's the Lunar Flare. Random teleportation. That's the most annoying part of Lunar Flare. That it sorry, did he use Lunar Flare or did he Eclipse? It's Lunar Flare, right? Yeah, Lunar Flare. So, random character positioning. Right? And the random positioning wasn't too bad for me. At the very least, Landius is still guarding Bozo. Of course, I was ready for that in the first place with Tactical Retreat. Pull everyone to safety, except for Listel. But it's not like Listel is going to die to 1 hit. His Listel attacks, doesn't do all that much. And I have Bozo, wipe out Rainforce right away. So, still good, in other words. Listel is heavily damaged and will probably die, but I got rid of Rainforce right away. Worth it. And surprisingly, Listel doesn't die. So he has Landius melee attack my Listel, but Listel with her 870 defense was tanky enough to avoid dying to this slightly damaged Landius. Of course, I can't take advantage of this because she's at 337 hit points. Right. Actually, I have the opportunity to high stakes. But then, even if I yeah, interesting. Let's see what happens. I had the opportunity to high stakes to keep her alive, but I didn't choose to do it. Instead, I had Listel charge forward and Reaper's Touch. Why is that? Because of Ariane Rod. If I had Wiler high stakes, right? Yes, it would remove this heal reversal, but it doesn't actually heal her. And so if I don't get healed, Ariane Rod can just move up here, launch out Grand Cross, and kill both Listel and my Wiler, who would have to move down here. So that's not a recipe for success. So instead, let's have Listel do her final action of casting Reaper's Touch on the enemy Iris, stopping his healing for 2 turns. Down goes... As expected, down goes my Listel. Ariane Rod gets to act again because she took enough damage. And so she runs up and launches out Grand Cross. Ow. Biggest annoyance of Grand Cross is all the buffs it removes, right? So for example, Listel took a bunch of damage and lost a lot of buffs. A lot of the faction buff of Bozo was gone. Landius manages to keep his 2 guard range at least, but loses parts of the faction buff and so on. Wiler loses most of his faction buff. Right. Well, so be it. Sea of Miracles, get some healing up. Get to act again. Let's start with just doing a regular attack, right, to break the shield. No point wasting the Elven Aura. I know I'm gonna do like 20 damage anyways to break the magic barrier. So just a little attack. Down goes the magic barrier. He launches up Reaper's Touch on my ddrd right away. So I'm just guarding, protecting her. And since the magic barrier is down, Wiler is able to wipe out Ariane Rod. So that is the thing about Ariane Rod. I mean, yes, if her magic barrier is up, she is invulnerable to damage. But once it's broken, even someone like Wiler, who has barely any intelligence, can take it down. Because her soldiers have to be pretty much dead, and she herself does not have much magic defense. So, yeah. Wiler, with not using Elven Aura just to break the shield, followed by... ddrd just breaking the shield, followed by a Wiler single target strike, takes out the Ariane Rod pretty easily. So we're at 4 against 3. And his Reaper's Touch has been used. So Landius tries to wipe out my damaged Bozal, but Landius is even more damaged than my Bozal is. Right? There were basically no soldiers alive on this Landius. So without any soldiers, obviously, my soldiers absorb most of the hit. So Bozal doesn't die. Even against a crit hit, it doesn't die. So that gives me the opportunity to move Bozal up and put his Listel to sleep. This is more just for protection purposes than anything else, first of all. And since his Landius is now so heavily damaged, my Landius can easily wipe out his Landius. Okay. Taking out the first life. And next, he chose to heal up Listel instead of healing his tank. So that's what gave me the opportunity to kill. And so I get to regroup my Bozal and have Bozal Dark Reaper to kill off Landius. And ddrd just moves up, you know, waiting for Reaper's Touch to disappear. He Blood Dances, so that was pretty much his last AoE, so I can finally activate High Stakes. Right. So I did not activate High Stakes until the critical point, but now that he has no AoEs to toss out or anything, I can finally High Stakes. And that also prevents ddrd from dying, because she heals before combat. So now that everyone is healing before combat, easy kills on the opponent. Act again for ddrd means... Oh, I actually chose to Gospel up Landius so that Landius can melee attack and not get debuffed. Okay. So, with the Gospel, Landius can fully benefit from Desperate Prayer, and so battle's over. Oh, surprisingly he actually did have one more AoE, Mind Bore. I miscounted, but you know what? Even if he Mind Bores, Landius was immune to debuffs, so that meant Landius could finish off that Listel. So that's why he just suicided his Listel, ending the fight in my favor. Interesting little match, overall. Had to be very careful with that Wiler, but it worked. You know, I could not trigger High Stakes until the very end of the match, but it certainly paid off at the end. In some ways, though, I might have been better off bringing Dispel rather than High Stakes. Like a Dispel Mass Heal, Tactical Retreat Wiler. But the combo of... Well, that was definitely a combo victory. Like, I needed Bozal for sleep. I needed Bozal for single target striking. ddrd for Gospel was very key. Like, it was a mix of everything. You know, regroup from Wiler with Clutch in that fight. Without having all those characters, that would not have been an easy fight. Let's see, that was this one against Multiplix. Next, a battle against Chibi. Let's see. His box. So, okay, at this point, I guess we're into this week already. because he has Sage of the Trees in his box. So these are, so I haven't changed my box yet, but I am facing against the Sage of the Trees right here. And other than that, very meta box mostly. No Gizaroff, but everyone else is mostly meta characters. So for this time, I once again went back to banning Ares. I lose my Juggler, he picks Landius to start. I ban Reen and Listel here. Huh. Okay. Right, I play Juggler. Or sorry. I play Landius. And now I lose. So I've lost Juggler, Deedlit, and Reen. He's left me Ares, which is surprising. He plays Licorice. So Landius followed by Licorice. Alright. So I get rid of Bozal and Leanna. I continue to leave him Juggler. I don't know why. But okay. I play Licorice as well. I lose Listel and Leanna. He plays Rachel. So AoEs. So time to get rid of both Juggler and Sophia. Right? Juggler for his AoE and tanking ability. Sophia for the rewind. He's clearly playing an AoE team, so he has the choice to play Hobo still, but no other AoEs left, at least. And he really should have to pick a healer at this point, which would be which would be Wiler. He does have 2 combat healers though. So I play my Wiler, third. He gets rid of my Zerida and Gizaroff now. Yeah, interesting thing here, or maybe an error here. Zerida, after he played Licorice, probably would have been smart, because Zerida can definitely assassinate Licorice. Right? So he has a choice between Yusuke and Deedlit. I play my Bozal. He gets rid of my Ares now, and my Ariane Rod. He plays Deedlit, and finally I choose to play Iris over Yusuke, because he has Gospel, 2 of them. What's the point of Yusuke when they have 2 Gospels? There is no point. So that's actually one thing I've noticed about Yusuke. Yusuke is either a monster or he's utterly useless. It's like one or the other. There's no in between for Yusuke. Right? If your enemy gets Gospels, Yusuke is useless. If your enemy doesn't get Gospel, then being able to apply cannot be healed on the enemy tank can win you the match, but even then that's not guaranteed. If they run double tank, Yusuke is useless anyways. Well, so yeah, he has Gospel, he has the very traditional Deedlit. His Rachel is Dark Reaper, Gospel, and Arcane Blast. Licorice is bringing Mass Resist here for immunity to stun. That's an interesting little choice. So Mass Resist, Dark Despair, and Demonic Event. I actually don't agree with that. Right? I mean, it was clearly to counter Sleep, which he knows my Bozal will definitely bring. But giving up another skill on Licorice for that, I don't agree with it. Wiler here is actually not bringing high stakes at all. Mass Heal, Dispel, Tactical Retreat. So his Wiler is focused on removing debuffs. Right? Unlike mine, which is about high stakes, regroup, and Tactical Retreat. So, difference there. Yeah. He's running a kind of odd skill combo, I feel. Like, I felt like it's fine to not run high stakes, don't get me wrong. But I feel like if he's gonna do a combo like this, maybe bring double Mass Heal? I don't know. He already has 2 Gospels, so Mass Resist is really, really questionable. Anyways. You can see though, I am more and more transitioning to this AoE debuff party. Right? Trying to constantly play Licorice and Bozal together. Or Licorice, Bozal, Gizaroff, or whatever. So, tossing out those Mass Resists. Activating Resplendent Legends. Also activating Resplendent Legends on my side, right? Both sides are just spending time setting up, which is how most of the early battles go in general. He's pushing in, so I activate high stakes right away. If battle is going to occur, I feel like I need high stakes. So, I start off with Bozol charging in to single target strike the enemy Landius. He doesn't have high stakes, so I can afford to do things like this. And I don't have to be afraid of him because he's all magic attackers. Bozol with 1059 magic defense is not going to die to any of these single target magic strikes. Guaranteed. Like, when he's at full hit points, there's no way anyone can kill him in one shot. Not with magic strikes. So that's why I aggressively started damaging the enemy Landius. And that made him send his Deedlit charging up to attack. So this Deedlit is not in guard range. So I start by tossing out some terrain effects, right? And also doing a bit more damage to this Deedlit. And he actually didn't choose to protect Deedlit. It's still out of guard range. That was a big mistake on his part, right? So since it's not in guard range, I quickly have Landius jump in and one-shot the Deedlit. So that turns it into a 5v4. He has Landius attack me. I continue to single target the enemy Landius. Only makes sense. So I actually didn't bring Dark Reaper, which I kind of regret. Dark Reaper helped a lot in taking on this Landius. But in my defense, I didn't know he had a Lancer Landius. I was expecting a Cavalry Landius, and against Cavalry Landius, yeah, Dark Reaper wouldn't particularly help. So there's an AoE, Arcane Blast from Rachel, providing healing. My response is a mass heal to remove the debuff and heal up my party a bunch. And Licorice also jumps in with a single target strike. So I'm relying a lot on single target hits from, Bozol, from Licorice. Magic attackers against a Lancer Landius, they're doing significant damage, even without any attack skill. Now this is a little bit worrisome because Rachel has debuffed my Bozol's magic defense, right? Minus 30% magic defense right now. So Rachel with Dark Reaper might actually be able to one-shot my Bozol at this point. So it's something I'm a little bit worried about. But he's not taking advantage of that. His Licorice tosses up Dark Despair. And I pretty much reply with the same thing. So that was a big mistake. My Bozol actually cannot be healed applied by his Dark Despair. So when I responded, right? So Bozol is not healing up from Desperate Prayer. And thus, Rachel Dark Reaper at 3 range kills off my Bozol. The correct move at that point was, rather than Licorice, he made a mistake with his Deedlit, I made a mistake with my Bozol now, by not checking the debuff. The proper move for me here was to Tactical Retreat. Right? Wiler hasn't used it yet. I could have pulled everyone back, removed one of the debuffs, and protected myself against his party. Yep. Hi, Jacob. So, bad move. It's now 4-on-4. But at least he doesn't really have enough healing, I was hoping, to keep this Landius alive. So I do a very late Tactical Retreat. Very, very late. Since he moved forward, I have my Landius continue to attack a bit. So, my goal is to continue to chip away at this Landius. There's not much else I can do. Right? His goal is to keep it alive. Speaking of chipping away, Licorice attacks, and to my disappointment and disgust, I left it alive. So, this is very much a situation where if my Licorice was at 6 stars, it would have died. But because I'm only at 5 stars on my Licorice, Landius manages to live with 492 hit points. 1%! Ugh. So, Wiler tactical retreats on the spot to re-heal. I'm continuing to toss magic damage at this Landius. A big thing of this fight, as a side note, is if this Landius was actually running either Templar Knights, yeah, if it was running Templar Knights, I was probably screwed. That's another thing, right? But he's not. He's running Royal Cavalry. So that was another big mistake on his part. Chipping away, and it's not dying. So, since that's not working, let's try to hope for debuffs. And I finally get one of those crucial debuffs. Cannot be healed has been applied to the enemy Landius. Cannot be healed also applied on Licorice, as a side note. So the terrain effects helping me quite a bit. So let's begin. Chip away again. Licorice single target strike, 625 hit points this time around. But at least he has cannot be healed on him, unlike before. So he does a free range attack on my Landius with Dark Reaper. And the free range attack actually doesn't kill me. Even though he had full hit point sorceresses, using Dark Reaper, the 1233 int did not do enough damage to kill off my Royal Cavalry, or to kill off my Landius that was at full health. So an interesting point. I think if he actually had Lightning Strike, he would have killed me. Side note. If this was Lightning Strike instead of Dark Reaper, 1.5 times damage with additional damage to Cavalry, he would have killed me. But since he didn't run that, Landius lives. So Iris then jumps in, gets that very first kill at long last on the enemy Landius. And he chooses to sacrifice Wiler now to trigger high stakes. That's fine. His attack on my Landius is wasted by a Bloodline Magic Armor activation, but he gets... And his Wiler actually isn't that great. It's only 5 stars. So his high stakes doesn't even last very long. It's 2 turns. So I actually feel he triggered the high stakes buff a bit too early, giving me the opportunity to heal up. So I regroup my Iris so she can act again, and then I have Iris heal up my Landius. So that way everyone is brought to a pretty healthy state. So now there goes his high stakes, right? Just like that. I teleport Landius into one of the remaining tiles. Mass heal to debuff the enemy. Right? Terrain effects, so that anyone who moves into these terrains will get debuffed. So Landius now cannot receive buffs. Rachel is immune to debuffs, and Licorice, when she moves onto a tile, will get debuffed. So this is why I keep saying, like, mass heal, even if you're just using it for the terrain effects as well as healing, is huge. It's one of the skills that has a very low cooldown, so very important. So, unlike his mass resist. His mass resist can be only used like once every 3 turns. I can use my Licorice mass heal every other turn. Now this is where it gets fun. Chibi chose to bring Crystal Warlocks on Licorice. And because of that, and because of the map, Licorice is stuck. Crystal Warlocks cannot move onto this water tile properly. So her only move is to move into the tile Rachel is on. But Rachel can't actually get into this tile either, because I have my Landius here. So in other words, Licorice is dead. So the soldier choice, where mine can fly due to sorceresses and his can't, just screwed him over. Rachel tries to kill my Iris, both rangers, 50% damage reduction, laughs it off. So this is, I guess, showing the weakness of a Rachel who is running the 3 range, what's it called? Staff. Right. To be fair, once again, if he had run Lightning Strike instead of Dark Reaper, I would have been in a lot more trouble. So he made some big mistakes in skill choices and soldiers, allowing me to win this fight. Last move of Licorice, Dark Reaper, goodbye. So 4 against 2. Dark Reaper, once again, not killing my Landius. I Dark Reaper in response. Or sorry, Dark Despair in response. And Landius triggers another Bloodline Magic Armor activation. So he's suffering the same problem I am. He's not able to kill my tank. I'm struggling to kill his tank, he can't kill mine either. And I realized the big problem is my character positioning doesn't have very many characters that can attack him. Right? The way we're mixed up, because Iris and Wiler can't strike Rachel or Landius. He is beating me in damage, significantly. So I have to kill his party to win. So I'm trying to drop Dark Despairs over and over again, get some damage into the enemy. And this is where, finally, Landius no longer has peace of mind. So it's finally expired, meaning I have an opportunity to kill Rachel. So go, go, go! Landius single target strike, Rachel falls. And now that Rachel is dead, I can finally wipe out Landius. No more healer. So, Iris Strike, done. So, there we go. I thought that was a pretty unique map. I mean, there were mistakes on both sides, as I said, especially with skill pick and so on. But yeah. It was pretty interesting. I actually beat him again after this, but that one was much more straightforward. So I'll skip that battle. The next match is against my fellow strategist. So this is going to be short and sweet because it was just something that surprised me. So I'm going to skip the pick ban. The thing is, he runs a very tanky, like he runs what's a tank push box, okay? He has Ledin with Righteous Duel to disable your guard, Landius is a secondary tank, and then a lot of healers or combat healers to keep everyone healthy. So that's his whole concept, right? Disable tanks, kill your characters who normally get guarded by the tank, and then force you to surrender. So my thought process was I would have Zerida assassinate characters on his team, right? He has ddrd, Chris, and Liana. I didn't think I could assassinate ddrd or Landius or Ledin, but I thought I could assassinate Chris or Liana, right? With my Zerida. Well, looking at this Liana, it has increased skill. Clearly, that's not an Overlord's badge. So it's a Swordsmith medal, and since she has Shrine Maidens, she is immune to fixed damage entirely. That means my Zerida cannot assassinate this Liana at all, because Liana will have 75% damage reduction. So that means one character that I thought I could assassinate, I couldn't. That only leaves Chris as the character of assassination. Well, 487 defense, I thought I could assassinate this Chris. So let's have Zerida Bloodthirster to start. Actually, I'm not entirely sure his Lancer Landius would have killed my Landius even without the activation. Maybe, but would have been interesting to see. So Gizerov, faction buff, Gizerov, act again, Gizerov, drop the summon construct. And then since I got 2 range on the construct could actually attack right away. And then the funny thing is, the construct got put in ice, and ddrd just comes up and kills it right away. So I made a mistake with skill choice. I actually thought I had used Peace of Mind, because that's what I usually do. I activate Peace of Mind first, but there I didn't. So he got a free kill before I could use my Gizerov AoE. So I tried to have my Zerida assassinate Chris, and look at that. Chris survives with 1,522 hit points. This is without Peace of Mind having provided any kind of range damage reduction. So that right there means the battle is over, right? And the thing is, this Chris doesn't even have that much defense either. It's 569, or sorry, 568. So the reason it lived was actually less on him and actually more on me. First of all, I brought a Gizerov faction buff, right? I didn't bring Zerida's Meteor faction buff. That means I'm not doing 10% increased damage, which Zerida's Meteor faction buff provides. So that's the first issue. The second issue is that it was too low. This is actually, as I said, it's actually on me. It's not on him. If I go take a look at my Zerida's gear and enchants, I'm actually missing a lot of attack increase. For example, the Twilight Star has a 7% attack increase, not 10. I'm missing 3% here. The Scarlet Embrace doesn't have a single attack increase, so I'm missing 5% here. So this is 3%, this is 5%, so I'm missing 8%. And before this, I wasn't even running a Last Rites. My Last Rites didn't have any attack increase either. I switched her Last Rites since, but during that battle, I didn't have any attack increase, so that's another 5%. So that's 10% plus 3, that's 13% attack I'm missing. And finally, for this fight, I was still using my Extreme Magic Bow, and my Extreme Magic Bow has a 13% attack increase. So it's not 15%, it's 13. So in total, what you can say is I was actually missing 13% attack, which means my attack increase was 23% out of the maximum 35. 23 out of 35. So that 12% lack of attack increase caused Chris to live. The soldier choice doesn't matter. I'm using Bloodthirster. So I direct attack the enemy hero. Soldier choice, if anything, bringing those soldiers allows me to potentially do fixed damage after combat. They don't participate in the fight, but they let you do some potential fixed damage. But yeah, the real reason he lived was because I was missing 12% attack. I actually didn't realize that because I normally just use my Zerida to assassinate mages. But that battle made me realize I have to increase my Zerida enchants. Because she's just does not have enough attack. So that's something I need to work on now. Which means this week's enchants, all the scrolls I get from my tier rewards, right? These 60 SSR scrolls that I'm getting, guess what they're going into? Zerida. So need to improve her enchants badly. That was a situation where it actually came up. It really does not become an issue most of the time, but it is starting to become an issue because there are characters there that should attack and kill, and I'm having sometimes issues with that. No, all good. There's so many things to remember in this game that it's easy to forget things, right? Like the battles I've been going over, there's a lot of battles where I missed things. So, okay, next. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more battles to go over. Wow. 1 more hour of streaming, I guess. Wow, this is going to be a long stream. Maybe I'll stop soon. Leave me something to stream next week, right? And yeah, I think I'll do that. So next week I'll stream the matches with my revised box. Right, the 4 matches I had with the newly revised box. I'll just do these last 2 battles here in today's stream. So a quick battle showing Shilinka and a battle showing Joshua's 3C being used. Zerida's a bit hit and miss. I mean, at this point, there's no reason for you to not have a 1600 attack 1600 attack Zerida, right? People who have been playing a long time should have gotten those enchants on Zerida. Okay, and yeah. As for, oh yes, of course, yeah, she flat out lived because of Last Rites, that's for sure. She had Meditation Ring to avoid fixed damage and Last Rites. But if I had my, I attacked expecting that. Okay, I expected her to have Last Rites. What I didn't expect was for her to survive. And what I realized was I was missing 12% attack increase. So if I had that extra 12%, I would have killed. Anyways, so 2 more battles to go. This one's the longer one. And here's ddrd's box is also a revised box, right? Hobo isn't here. I still haven't changed my box yet. Those matches I'll go over tomorrow. He has a time and space a very heavy time and space in AoE box. Both Joshua and Yusuke, faction buffers of time and space are here. There is Arianrod, Reen, Hiei, Leonhardt as well, and ddrd. So all of these are time and space characters. And then rounding it out, he has Wiler, or sorry, Sophia, Liana as healers, Licorice as a semi-healer, if you will, ddrd as kind of a healer, Ares, and Hobo. So, looking at it now, I probably could have banned healers, but anyways. So Landius, both sides ban juggler. I play Landius. I lose Ares and Reen, very typical. He plays Landius. I ban Reen and Liana. Right? I am going after the healers, as I mentioned. So I play Yusuke. He bans my Hiei and Gizaroff now. Oh, I did make a revision. I threw in Hiei. Who the heck did I remove to throw in Hiei? What the heck? Okay, so I made a minor revision for this fight. I somehow threw in Hiei and then removed someone. And I don't know who. Juggler, Ares, Dream, Arianrod. Interesting. Okay. I don't know what I was thinking there, but alright. So, yeah. He plays Joshua. Right off. So I get rid of the Sophia and Licorice. Probably should have gotten rid of ddrd, but I got rid of Licorice. Whatever. Play my Zerida. He gets rid of my ddrd and Wiler now. 2 healers, leaving me the choice of Liana or Iris. Plays ddrd. So I get rid of Zerida and Hiei. Playing my Liana. He gets rid of my Licorice, and my Listel. Makes a lot of sense, right? Licorice would have been able to provide potential healing. Listel would have provided AoE damage and Reaper's Touch and all that. So he plays Yusuke at this point, right? Especially after getting rid of my Listel, Yusuke is a great pick. So I get rid of Ares and Arianrod, leaving him the choice between Hobo and Leonhardt. And here, I choose to play Bozo instead of Iris. And on his side, he plays Leonhardt. Overall, I do like my selection of characters, but I ended up losing this. So, Bloodthirster Zerida as always. Right? Because Bloodthirster Zerida can assassinate Leonhardt, can assassinate Joshua, can't assassinate the remaining 3, but if both of these 2 characters are already dead, it should be an easy fight for me. So Bozo has Dark Waltz, Sleep, and Black Hole. Faction buff, Sleep. Sleep is such a key skill for Bozo. Black Hole because AoE would be good against his box. And he begins with an instant transfer on Leonhardt, on the spot. Other than that, Joshua is actually bringing True Black Fang. So True Black Fang, Dark Demise, and Yitsu, while Yusuke is the faction buffer here. No, even with more attack you can kill her, NZ. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Bloodthirster form gives you 30% increased damage. When attacking, damage that was increased by 30%. So that mostly counters the last rites. And with that, since you're direct attacking with 1.4 times damage on Chris, you have a very good chance of killing her, as long as you have enough attack. There's a big difference between 1600 attack and 1345. That's really the main point. I guess, actually, I should say a side note. One of the reasons I haven't been increasing my Zerida's attack is purely because I have a Twilight Star on her. Right? Not that many characters I attack can take the fixed damage. So the fixed damage breaks the last rites, allowing my Zerida to easily assassinate. But because there are characters who run Meditation Ring and keep their last rites active, I do need to increase my Zerida attack, is what I realized. Alright, moving on. So, Zerida... he starts off with Dark Demise on my Zerida, right, doing a whole bunch of damage. I did manage to keep my attack buff though. Right. The Bloodthirster form can't be dispelled, and I managed to keep the buff that I really needed. So, unfortunately, there's no one I can really attack in this situation. So, because there's no one I can attack, I just have my Zerida move back for now. At the very least, he's used his Dark Fang for now. triggering a whole bunch of... No, he's setting up. He ends up not using his Leonhardt's instant transfer attack because I'm holding back, right? So Leonhardt's not able to move in to AoE and follow up. But this second turn he triggers Breeze on Leonhardt. So now I move my Zerida up and reactivate Bloodthirster. And this time around I activated Breeze. So unless he retreats all the way back, I have pretty close to full map coverage. Unfortunately, Leonhardt charges forward 5 tiles due to the Breeze activation. AoEs, reactivates Breeze for 10 mobility, and runs up and assassinates my Zerida. Game over. So double Breeze activation on this Leonhardt definitely worked for him, but it just shows that Breeze is actually... Breeze is just really good on any character that can act again, right? Same with ddrd, right? Most people use it on ddrd for that very same reason. You can move forward, activate Breeze, and then maybe move 5 more tiles. Leonhardt running Breeze can do this exact same thing. So it's definitely handy, right? Definitely something I forgot about. You know, I really just didn't consider it. I didn't think... I was like, hey, ddrd can't reach, right? Hey, Joshua can't reach. Yusuke can't hit me there. Well, I missed out on Leonhardt having that 5 mobility, act again, and then moving to strike. So, surprise Leonhardt! And so one last battle I'm going to cover will be a quick Shilinka demonstration. It's quick simply because I didn't bother to read her skill and very quickly lost to her as a result. Let's just skip the pick ban. I also gave a terrible pick ban. If you take a look, he has 2 act again characters, Liana and Aka, along with Shilinka, Zerida, and Yusuke. First, Zerida faction buffs, which buffs up Shilinka. I just start maneuvering characters up a bit, activating faction buffs and so on. And right away, he has Shilinka Fleeting Flash forward. So Fleeting Flash allows you to teleport forward a bit, and most importantly, gives you +2 mobility, right? There's more things to this skill though, okay? First, there is the death blow effect, okay? Before initiating battle, if at least one enemy within 1 block range of the target, this attack directly hits the enemy hero. First thing I didn't realize, okay? So, because I placed Gizerov next to Juggler, Shilinka is going to direct attack my Juggler. And of course, Shilinka has Bloody Grip, which does 1.6 times damage, where melee soldiers will also participate as a 2-range attack. And more importantly, this attack will also ignore 20% defense for each enemy adjacent to the target, up to a 40% defense reduction. Okay. And finally, if there are no enemies within 2 blocks of the target, you can act again after defeating the target. So lots of things as I said, I didn't read any of Shilinka's skills. So I place characters next to my Juggler like this. So there's 2 characters next to Juggler, meaning he is going to get direct attacked and lose 40% defense. So the way to deal with Shilinka is if you put everyone, like, they can't be adjacent, but they have to be within 2 blocks. As long as you do that, you're fairly safe. But if you put them adjacent, you're screwed. I know. So I try to activate high stakes, hoping to keep my character alive. Nope. Here comes Bloody Grip, Death Blow, direct attack on Zerida with the soldiers participating, instantly killed Juggler. GG, you know, game over. Nothing else needs to be said. He even summons a wolf soul for killing me from Akka, and that of course means the wolf soul can move up and Beastal Outbreak to teleport Zerida forward to kill off another target. Right? Because now Zerida gets an act again effect as well. Side note, killing off that guy also triggers Yusuke. Character dies, so Yusuke triggers. So Zerida comes in, assassinates another character as well. Re-trigger of the summoned wolf soul. You know? Everything is going his way, not too much needs to be said. Battle's over. So, long stream today, a bit over 2 hours, I think. I think I'll stop here. So, my box transition battles, I'll go over, I guess, next week instead of this week. Where I ended up going 6-0, as I said, with this box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Quick mention of what I changed was, it's very simple. First of all, instead of bringing Iris, I brought Sophia. So, because Sophia can act as kind of a faction buff. So, and Iris in the first place was not getting any faction buffs in my party. I don't really have a time and space faction buffer, and I don't have an Empire faction buffer. So she just, and I don't even have a Princess faction buffer either. So even though I was using her, she was not getting faction buffed by anyone. So that was the first adjustment. Okay, replacing Iris with Sophia. The second adjustment was removing my Yusuke. Yusuke is becoming mostly useless by next season, right? Everyone removes, because with everyone running multiple tanks, Yusuke applying cannot be healed on a single tank isn't very good. Okay, so removing Yusuke and replacing Yusuke with Hobo was the second adjustment. I was very leery of using Hobo because my Hobo is 3 stars. Okay, I just got 1 copy of him, that was it. I'm grinding him up, but he's 3 stars. But I threw him into the box and he actually worked, surprisingly. So that was the 2 adjustments I made, and these 2 adjustments, the thing was, ultimately this made my box much more powerful in terms of AoE assault. I gave up a single damage dealer for another AoE attacker. So and also this AoE attacker can also provide a mythical faction buff. And mythical faction characters in my party include Juggler, Bozel, Gizaroth, Reen, Hobo, right? Sophia now, Arianrod, Zerida. Very, very super heavy on mythical character. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of 15. So it made a lot of sense, right? And then of course, the list legends includes Landius, Listel, Wiler. Right? So that part is mostly covered as well. The only characters who aren't benefiting would be just Ares, Deedlit, and Licorice. So yeah, this adjustment just made my box fit together much better, and it led to a lot of success as a result. But that's it for now.